Well, I'm waiting for the news now. Hopefully, Rowan, our guide dog puppy, is going to go into formal training at the end of this month or at some point next month. So we're just trying to sort of tidy up all the things we really feel he needs to do before he goes. And I decided, in my wisdom, that going to a car boot sale was one of the things he really needed to do. So a couple of Sundays ago, we trotted off to Wollaston in the drizzle so he could experience a car boot sale. Easier than a farmer's market, no sausage rolls or cheese, but an awful lot of other dogs and free-range, freestyling children. So we went round pretty rapidly, shall I say? We didn't look in detail for any treasures that might then appear on the Antiques Roadshow. But the thing that I noticed, I hadn't been to a car boot sale in Wollaston before, was the number of Haynes manuals that there were. You know, the Haynes manuals that many of us used to have, I'm not sure we still have, for fixing our cars. I think you can get them for washing machines and all sorts of things like that. And I could kind of see why people would collect them. I had a Haynes manual for my Fiat 127, and I have glorious memories of wet days with a rag and some WD-40 and taking the distributor cap off and drying the spark plugs, all of that, which of course none of us do anymore, or maybe if you're a car enthusiastic and fast with a classic car you do. But most of us now are out of the picture. It's all computerised, isn't it? You have to go and get it plugged in. So there's this huge nostalgia that I sympathise with Haynes manuals. Well, this morning's reading from James is really very much like a Haynes manual for Christian living. But there's no nostalgia in it. As we read it this morning, we need to take on board the energy and the brisk pace with which the writer, James, was addressing his original hearers and readers. Because what he's really trying to do is not to set out a theological thesis, he's trying to help people to get on and live a truly Christian life in the real world. And brothers and sisters, I don't know about you, but working out how to live a truly Christian life is, for me, I think, a lifelong preoccupation. And I can't help but feel that it keeps changing all the time. As the world changes, so I need to adapt. So the tone is, as I said, brisk. And I think it's set rather well by Eugene Peterson. You know, the Message, which isn't a translation of the Bible, it's his paraphrase of the whole Bible. I mean, what a feat to paraphrase the whole Bible. And of course, it's American, so sometimes the vocabulary is a little bit different. But I think he often gets to the heart of things. And so chapter 1, which we looked at last week in our churches, ends. Anyone who sets himself up as religious by talking a good game is self-deceived. This kind of religion is hot air and only hot air. Real religion, the kind that passes muster before God the Father, is this: reach out to the homeless and loveless in their plight and guard against corruption from the godless world. So, what is it that James is saying in the section of his letter that we read this morning? Well, I've got a don't, a do, and then a picture of what it might look like if we get it right. And I remember, as many of you may do, glaring at the Haynes manual and looking at the photo of either the bit you're supposed to be finding or how it looks when you've dealt with it. So we need pictures, don't we? So the first thing that we see this morning is don't be in awe of material wealth. In God's economy, riches and poverty have different definitions to those of the fallen world. Verse 5 echoes Jesus' teaching in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Material wealth does not indicate spiritual wealth. And the people that James was writing to, they knew this, really. because they were oppressed by wealthy people. No, instead, the poor inherit God's riches. And it is they who we should cherish, as they have spiritual wealth to share with us. So don't be in awe of material wealth, but do keep the royal law. Verse 8 again brings us back to what we know, Jesus' teaching. Love your neighbour as yourself. James is challenging a group that flatters the rich and degrades the poor. They've forgotten, or at very least failed to act on their knowledge that Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan to demonstrate that our neighbours aren't just people like us, who we like easily. They're also people who are totally unlike us, and are even people we would find it distasteful or distressing to live next door to. James takes his point about neighbours to its logical and damning conclusion. If we, Christian people, only love our favourite sorts of people and fail to love even the most unworthy of the rest, we're disobeying Jesus' teaching. So what does all this look like when we've got it right? Well, we'll know that we've got this right, that we've understood God's love in the world and described in the teaching of Jesus, when all our actions speak for themselves. Our reading stops short of summing up the argument. Don't get me started on the lectionary and how they sort it out. It's a dark art. But if you read on into verse 18, again, this is from the Message from Eugene Peterson, he concludes, faith and works, works and faith, together, hand in glove. Friends, I think that James puts together an argument that we can follow that makes sense to us because we know Jesus' teaching. He's just drawing these things together for us, isn't he? Though Jesus isn't mentioned explicitly, we can hear his voice and his sense of things in all of this. Remember, this isn't a theological thesis. It's a practical handbook to help Christian people, to help us to live out our calling as children of God and followers of the way of the cross. But none of this is new. Probably all of you have heard many sermons on this before. You know all of these things. So friends, how are we getting on with making sure that our faith is demonstrated through our care for the poor and the vulnerable? Have we fallen into the habit of showing concern for people like us or people that our society considers to be valuable and excluding others? Worse still, have we fallen for the lie that material wealth and well-being is the measure of how good our life is, and thus allowed our spirits to be impoverished? I think these challenges are as old as humanity, but they have been intensified by our ever-increasing connectedness across the globe. We know so much more about people living in poverty far, far away. We know that the impact of human activity in one region affects the environment and livelihoods of those in another. We see the impact of our purchases in the lives of people in very far away places where those things are grown or produced, or where we send our rubbish when we don't want to deal with it at home. As I read this passage, and this is hugely challenging to me, and I believe to all of us, I don't see that there's a boundary around which poor, which homeless and loveless people, or which neighbours I should consider when seeking to keep my faith and works hand in glove. And I have to face up to the fact that the reach of my actions is far greater than just the people I will actually meet. The food I eat, the fuel I use, the clothes I wear, and the way that I launder them, my behaviour on social media, the way I use my time and invest my skills, they all impact on people far away as well as close at hand. And a large number of them are poor, vulnerable to climate change, and long for the wealth and freedoms that I enjoy. But however do I unpick all this? How do we all unpick all this? Because these things are not only true for me, they are true for us all. How can we support and encourage one another to take Jesus' teaching seriously enough to do something about all of this? Not just to wave from a distance, like those people in the passage, saying, "Go in peace, keep warm, and eat your fill." How do we supply the bodily needs of our poor global neighbours and enable them to live with long-term hopefulness for a healthy future? It's not straightforward and it's not easy. But I do think part of the answer is in how we do our shopping. Now, some of you will love shopping and see it as a great leisure activity, and some of you would be glad never to shop again. I could ask for a show of hands, and I don't like to be sexist, but I could have a little guess that there might be quite a sort of a gender divide on that question. But here in Tidnam Parish and in the town of Chepstow, we have a great opportunity through our shopping to chew over these big, big questions and to make a start, if we haven't thought about them before, or to up our game in the light of the recent developments we've seen in weather events and warfare on our screens and in our papers, because it's Fair Trade Fortnight. And all over the town, according to Tudor, the mayor, bananas will be appearing on trees to remind us. I have brought a banana with me. Not because I think any of you don't know what bananas look like, but just as a little reminder. These are from Lidl. You don't have to go to a posh supermarket to buy fair trade, you know. But bananas. So the Fair Trade Association, by certificating certain goods, enables us to know that these are things that we can buy where a premium taken from the price will go directly to farmers and growers and workers to be reinvested in the things that they believe are priorities for their communities, as well as being reinvested into their businesses. That process, and us playing our part in it, offers us a way of navigating some of the difficult choices that we face when we are trying to put our faith into action, when there are so many products to choose from and we hear so many voices. And for those of us who shop, I don't know about you, but I go to buy coffee, and do I want Jungle Alliance, or what is the best thing to do? And fair trade gives us a starting point on that. I, for a long time, have been working on ecologically friendly toilet paper, and which is the best one to use. I bought a loo roll as well. It's pristine. But even our loo rolls, there are choices to make. We don't need to compromise on the quality and efficacy of what we use, but there are still choices for us to make. And I don't think that these are always easy choices, and sometimes finding out what's best is time-consuming. If you want to know about toilet rolls, do come and ask me. I've been doing this quite seriously for some time because I buy them for our holiday let as well as for us, so I take it all quite seriously. But we, just with those little things, just with our tea bags and our coffee, our loo rolls and our bananas, can make a difference. In 2023, UK sales of fair trade goods created £28 million of fair trade premium, which directly benefited farmers and workers and their communities. And I've recently read the book Less by Patrick Grant. If you watch The Great British Sewing Bee, you'll know Patrick, one of the judges. That's all about how we can shop in ways that benefit manufacturing workers in the UK and rebuild jobs and opportunity for those who've lost them. But anyway, this is Fair Trade Fortnight. Their website offers lots and lots of information, and we have our knowledgeable reps here in church. So Julia, you're here. Can you wave? So Julia is very happy to help you as you try to navigate all of this by using the work that's already been done by the Fair Trade Organisation. Work so that our morning cuppa, whether it's tea or coffee, or our lunchbox banana, reaches out to the poor and the vulnerable, the loveless and the anxious who look at their environment and see devastation. It offers them a fair price. Our reach across the supply chain is a blessing rather than a hindrance. And as we reach out in compassion to meet our daily needs, so we serve our neighbours far away, those who are close to God's heart, and we help to bring them hope. Now, this is just a start. Just as being a Christian is a lifestyle, so each of our decisions that we make is also part of that. And many of you will be busy with your recycling boxes and all sorts of other things that matter to you. But I think this passage today gives us the opportunity to understand why all that is important, not just to the planet, not just as a fashion, but because this is a core part of who we are as Christian people, saved by faith, but whose faith is demonstrated in our works. Let's take a moment just to reflect, whether it's thinking about which bananas you're going to look out for in Chepstow, or whether it's thinking about this question of how we reach so many across the world. So let's head to our credit cards and our online accounts, or to the shops with these words in our ears, our minds, and our hearts. Real religion, the kind that passes muster before God the Father, is this: reach out to the homeless and loveless in their plight and guard against corruption from the godless world. Amen.
Amen.